Hi, and welcome to If Left Unchecked. I'm your host, Jason Gillette. One of the things, this topic is important, but one of the things that we often forget is the importance of communication. How we communicate is, if not more important than what we say, how we say it. And in my life and in my career, communication continues to be at the forefront, at the top of everything we want to master. How we talk. I think that there should be training on how to talk, even at young ages, right? I think that'd be important. But in doing so, we want to find a way that we can communicate authentically and be able to do that in a safe space and get our needs met and have our feelings heard. It's important. Fellas, this is for us. I have with me our guest, Michelle Nelson of NAMI. She is, above everything else, a champion for mental health, for saving others, for helping others. Everything she does is focused on how we can help other people. And I think that was clear when I first met her. But then as I got to know her, I'm like, you do everything, but your career and your experience is perfect for this work because you've been exposed to so many different perspectives. And now you take your personal perspective, your personal journey, and you take your professional experience, and then you meld that all in, and then you make this. And so you create this opportunity for ending the silence, right? And so, one, thank you for being on the show. And then two, I'm always impressed because I really find that people who have been through it and understand what it means to become stronger as a result of what they've been through are some of the best communicators they are. And it seems fitting that we're talking about nonviolent communication and how that frames our entire world, both personally and professionally. And for men, I think it's important for us to talk about why do we want to master our communication and what that looks like, and how does nonviolent communication actually help us to do that. And so we are looking for your help. That is what this is about. You are here to help. And I'm just excited to kind of dive down into this conversation with you. But nonviolent communication, where did you learn about this? Why have you made it a point to learn it? What's that?
Nonviolent communication is actually, and I should have brought the author, but it's a whole philosophy. It's called Nonviolent Communication. If you type it into Amazon, you will find a book and with exercises on how to practice nonviolent communication. Now, a former therapist of mine, she's the one that introduced me to it. And I was a reporter at the time.
Okay.
And one of the big things I wanted to help myself with was when I would get a call from an angry reader who would because I put my heart and soul into what I wrote. I thought I really had done it with integrity. And then they would come and chew me out, like, how dare you write this? And this was so wrong. And you misunderstood. And I'd be like, I'd first get defensive because I was never trained on how to accept criticism, how to not take it personally. Because generally especially if you're doing something like writing a story for a newspaper,
right,
it's not personal. You're trying to report the news.
Right.
But of course, your voice, your name is on it. How the facts you chose to write about are in that story. And so I can understand. And so as I needed this tool because I was in this space where either I would blow up at people or I would just sort of accept it all and just say, you're right, I'm wrong. And neither of them felt good. Neither of them got the result I wanted. What I wanted was a resolution for both of us. And so with either this blowing up and getting angry and defensive or becoming a victim and taking it in, there was no middle ground for either of us to find the space to get our needs met. And I didn't know all of this until I went to a class. She called it Nonviolent Communication. She taught it at the community college. And we spent 8 weeks learning about how to communicate what are our emotions, because when you have a conflict or you have an argument or a discussion that's hot, it's about emotions. You're having an emotional response to something, which is your absolute right to have that. But the thing that was new to me was adding in needs. And we've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you want to explain to people about Maslow's hierarchy because you're better at it than I am.
So Maslow is 1930s, I think, is when it came And what he basically says is that there are some fundamental things that you must have before you can self-actualize. And self-actualize is the idea of saying, I truly and genuinely believe that I genuinely believe that I can and will accomplish the things that matter most for me in my life. Like I'm able to do that. I believe in myself such that I can do that. When you don't have housing, or you don't have a secure relationship, or you don't have intimacy or home, or you don't have the ability to be safe, all those things impact your ability to believe and your ability to self-actualize. And so when you don't have those things, you see people stuck in one kind of segment or another. There's a really interesting triangle that we'll put on the link below that kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like. But yeah, it's just saying that your basics need to be met, and then from there you can become whatever you can really realize and become whatever you want.
Well, in NAMI, we call it living your best life.
Exactly.
So, because when you work with people with a mental health condition, they often have different needs than the rest of us.
Correct.
You know, a lot of them can't do a 9-to-5, Monday to Friday job.
Correct.
They've got maybe some long-term illness that goes along with their mental health condition. They generally have higher unemployment rates than people even with a physical disability.
Yes.
So people with a mental health condition have to look at what society expects them to actualize and become differently than the rest of us. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs allows us to say, we can work on the basic level. We're trying to help people get housing and food, or we can work on the next level where people want to educate themselves and improve themselves, or we can work on the next level where on spirituality, we're trying to connect more with a higher purpose and cause. And so that's what nonviolent communication taught me to do, is mix that messy world of emotions. And emotions are hard until you learn how to accept them, embrace them, and use them as a tool rather than them using you.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I have to say to a lot of men, I have talked to so many men, from politicians to businessmen, and I tell them all the time, it's always about emotion. And so many of the men just say, no, it's not.
Right.
And I just say, this is why you struggle with women. We are allowed, honestly, we are allowed to express more emotions than men are. Men are allowed to express anger, and that's about it. That's all that society really will accept.
And so that opens the conversation up perfectly. Expression. And so we think about, for me, like I think about, like you have to be perceived in a certain way, or
you mean as a man,
right? As a man, you have to. And it's like, well, as a man, I need to be perceived in a certain way, and if I express too many emotions, or if I express too many things that are not as society defines as masculine,
strong,
right? Then that makes me vulnerable, and that gives people something to look.
You're weak,
right? And so you can't, I think, do that, right?
Not
and that's
a man.
the narrative, right? That's the narrative, that we have to be strong all the time.
Correct.
And that's not true.
Well, no. Let's back up a bit. Okay. I would disagree that being strong is not a good thing, to judge strength. Okay. Right. There's different kinds of strength. So let's talk. I'm saying that society has put men in a box that is really limiting on the ability for you to express your full humanity. And using a tool on nonviolent communication, which I got to tell you, I was so disengaged from my emotions due to my upbringing. And I suffered a lot of trauma. I grew up in the age of capital punishment being okay. And there are corporal punishment being okay. And we're now finding that corporal punishment has these consequences to it that are extremely severe. In my case, the trauma of the corporal punishment manifested as an eating disorder, and it manifested in a fatal attraction to narcissists and abusive relationships. So I literally put my life in danger for both of these due to this inability to learn how to resolve conflict with respect for emotions and respect for needs. And I can't blame my parents, because they're victims of victims. My grandfathers were both alcoholics. At least my parents weren't alcoholics, but that family pattern came down, and who knows what my grandparents experienced from their great-grandparents. And these generational patterns go on and on. The basic one is an inability to say, it's okay for you to have emotions in front of me. As a child, you do not have the capacity to understand your emotions. You're trying to figure it out. You're bouncing around going, what if I say this, how does it react? And if you have a parent who hasn't figured out their way to deal with emotions, then you just have a toxic soup of victim and abuser. Right. That's how it ends up being a lot of times. So it's a complicated thing, but it comes back down to communication.
Right.
So in nonviolent communication, the basic concept, if someone comes in and says, I can't believe you wrote that.
Right. Right.
So number one, wow. You have to sit that and go, ooh, that's a lot. I wrote it because it's my job, number one, and I didn't mean to offend anyone. So all these thoughts are going through your head. But first, what I do is I stop and I say, wow, that's really hard for me to hear that response. So I give myself self-compassion first. So when I'm calm and I'm safe in the communications, then I can stop and say, what is the point of this person? This is Gracie, and I love her. She knows we're getting emotional here. Yep. Dogs are so smart.
Yeah.
I know that I'm getting emotionally responded, and I can't respond clearly if I'm emotionally responded. So first self-talk is, whew, that's heavy, that's hard, but it's okay. It's not me. I'm not upset here. I'm not upset about what I wrote. That's not me. I can take me out of the equation now. Let's be there for this other person. And then to confirm with the other person, hey, I hear that you're speaking, intensely. Are you upset?
Right.
Are you angry?
So acknowledging that there's something that they're feeling something, and being able to acknowledge that.
And being able to say, I'm going to speak it, which means I'm in control of the emotion. I am so in control. I can see your anger.
Right.
I can feel your anger, which is a little scary, but I have the strength to control that fear response I'm having and separate myself from your emotions. I can feel them, but I don't have to be triggered by them because I name them. It gives you a strength to name that emotion and to know it, but you have to know your own emotions too. And that's where I talk about the strength.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, once you determine if generally people are so, to give them permission to agree to their emotion. They're like, yeah, I agree with you. Yes, I am upset. Wonderful. I'm glad you could admit that. Now I can see how I honestly can see how you would be upset by what was written here. It didn't agree with you. That's, you have that right. So what do we need? Was it wrong? Was it factually wrong? Can we go through the list of things going on here? And I'm just using a writing example. There's all kinds of examples.
Yeah.
With your partner or whatever, you can have the same problems, miscommunication.
I love that. And I think you make a really valid point when you say, well, there's a exchange here happening, right? There's an opportunity for us to have our needs met, both of us. I hear what you're saying. Let's understand where the dissonance is. Where are we not seeing each other? And then from there, we kind of dive in. I love that.
But you have to remove the emotions out of it. And you kind of have to have an agreement with that other person that, there's some emotions in this room. We're all okay with that. It's not anything to be scared of. Or you can acknowledge, which is another part of hierarchy of needs, acknowledgement and understanding. You can say, I can understand your anger.
Right.
And then that takes them up higher up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and removes the whole emotional trigger from it.
Right. So if for men who are like, I don't really talk about this. I'm not really trying to talk. And they have a difficult time engaging in conversation just to begin with, and then trying to use a method like nonviolent communication as a tool to help them. Where do you start?
That's a good question, because as I said, when I first learned this method, I was so disconnected from my emotions. There was no way I could give myself self-talk to calm my emotions down. So I was still escalating situations because until I was clear with my emotions and what was going on with me, I couldn't really give myself the self-talk I needed to calm myself down. You can act as if, because I learned nonviolent communication, that's the goal.
Right.
But here's where I'm really struggling with that goal, and what do I need to do? So again, I go back to strength. It is incredibly difficult, and it takes a lot of strength to take responsibility for your own emotions, your own emotional response. In fact, a year and a half of weekly intense therapy where my therapist would say, you're telling me how everybody else feels. How do you feel about it? What do you feel about it? And if I say, well, they were They dumped on me. She goes, victim verb, dumped. Dumped is a past tense verb. Someone else did it to you. You're feeling hurt that they treated you that way, aren't you? You feel hurt. So I had to own my hurt and not say, well, but it's their fault. No. I chose to feel hurt by their actions. I don't have to feel hurt by their actions. I can see their actions and I can say, I see you. I see when you label me these names. I see when you put me down. It's not me you're really doing it to. It's really whatever's going on with you that day. Either you're remembering a childhood incident that I remind you of, or it's, you had a bad experience with a boss and I'm reminding you of that person.
Right. You're being triggered in some way based off of some past trauma. And that's what you're responding to in that current moment.
Right. When someone labels you and they name things, I mean, and I'm talking right now about our political discourse at the moment too. We're struggling with this. And one of the things I genuinely do when I get into political discourse with people who start labeling me and naming me things and telling me what I believe. It's like, you don't really know what I believe.
Right.
You don't really know who I am. And that's okay. I do.
Right.
And I love who I am. I've done a lot of therapy. I think I'm pretty cool.
Right. I'm amazing.
Yes,
right?
yes. I have gotten rid of all those voices in my head that were telling me that I was never enough, that I was unworthy. And those voices are so important to remove because they're not me.
And so I think that's where we start. What's going on in me?
Thank you. Yes.
How can and the strength is knowing that when I know what's going on in me, I can then better understand it. And then by me understanding that, I can understand others.
Bingo. That's it. And that's why people have such immense respect for Tibetan monks who spent, decades meditating and learning this. But I want to tell people that you can learn the same thing that they learn meditating, that you can learn through trauma. Once you've been through all the trauma and you get those voices out of your head, and we've talked about this before.
We have.
Voices
I'm going to say that we're going to dive into that because my trauma from being homeless to the abuse and the addictions and getting to a space where you feel like you know who you are. And I those voices never kind of, at least in my, and I'm working on that, but then they get quieter.
They get quieter, but they're still there, this background noise that'll come out when you're triggered.
Yes, exactly.
And you get triggered with a situation and you're like.
And whenever you're tired, you're overwhelmed or whatever that be, then they come up and they are loud and sometimes they are very pointed.
Mean.
Right.
Mean.
Insensitive.
They are, all of those things, yes. And they're just basically kind of a compilation of all those people in your life when you were a child that you didn't have the intellectual or emotional capacity to filter out. Now as adults, we have this. We have our prefrontal cortex is finished developing. And hopefully we're learning how to use that prefrontal cortex to connect with our emotions as tools rather than something to be afraid of. Because we are emotional beings. That's what makes humans so unique is our emotion. Our emotion gives us our creativity. Our emotion gives us our thoughts. Yes. Our emotions drives our, what we want to do in the world. It gives us our purpose.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And in NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that's the long thing of NAMI, but NAMI's a lot cuter. That is a big part of one of their, when you go in and do the peer-to-peer class, which is, I took that as someone trying to deal with my bulimia. You learn that to find purpose in your life is to help get over your mental health condition too. And it helps to quiet those voices because that purpose is kind of like, but I know this is my gift that I'm giving the world.
So that clarity.
Yes.
And that I think goes back to the point of our podcast and our show. Like we want to be able to identify how clear mental health allows us to be. When we have a strong and healthy mental health balance, we can see the world more clearly. It is not colored by our emotions, our biases, our misunderstandings, our voices. We can see the world and the situations as they are. And we're not in them. We're experiencing them almost like third person in a sense, right? And that's how I've kind of looked at it as third person living, right?
objective. It's
Right.
an objective observer
Right.
who's not judging it. And that, then we come back down to the nonviolent communication.
Yes.
And it's simply a tool to help us to be a better objective observer and communicator in life. So if you can be an objective, I've used nonviolent communication with a group of people. And recently I've been asked to be on a couple of boards.
That's exciting.
It's exciting, but it's also challenging because you have it's human beings are so, I believe that our strength is in our collaboration and our cooperation.
I agree.
Margaret Mead said she was an anthropologist, and she said the first example of civilization was a healed bone. Not many creatures will wait and heal the bone of another creature in their group. It's keep up or you're out.
Yeah.
And humans saw, 6 weeks of healing that person, feeding that person, keeping that person safe. That is the beginning of collaboration and collective work. And so boards are an important thing because more minds together make a better thing. But gosh, darn, people can be frustrating.
Yes.
And they can be
Very.
in their own point of view. And how do you help them when they're just my way, my way, my way?
Right.
How do you say, I hear your way? Is it the best for all of us?
So walk us through. We're going to do this. So if I feel like one of the things I always say fundamentally right, I have a confirmation bias. Like I feel that I am right about this. So for instance, if I'm struggling with the idea of changing my diet, right? Like this works for me. Like this is like, it is what it is. But
I'm not going to give up chocolate.
Right.
Just
I'm not going to do chocolate. Like chocolate is my thing. We're staying.
But you're taking a medication that's harmful or whatever to the chocolate. You really shouldn't be having chocolate.
So yes. Yeah. We have some medical
and you're
issues.
Emotionally attached to chocolate.
I love chocolate.
Okay.
Right.
So you're not going to give it up.
No, we're tooth and nail.
I hear what you're saying. I hear that you have this love of chocolate, but what did your doctor say? Why did your doctor say you need to give up chocolate?
Well, because my A1C was high. And it's been high for some time, but it's just, I'm cut out other things, but this is just one thing
I hear you. Okay. So how do you feel when you have chocolate?
At first?
No. Now that you know chocolate isn't good for you, there's a reason that you found out chocolate wasn't good for you. Is it because it gives you a headache? Is it because you get inflamed? Is it because you have consequences with your diabetes going crazy? Okay.
Yes.
So, do you want to keep having those feelings? Do you still want it? Do you? Okay.
Of course not. No, I don't want to feel like that.
Okay.
No.
So what's it going to take for you to have that balance? And this conversation we're having right now is actually one I've had with my daughter, who has incredible dietary limits. She can't have gluten, lactose, soy, and chocolate bars and things often have this in there.
Right.
And she will go and eat these foods. And so we had exactly this conversation. And I said to her, how do you feel after you eat this? And she said, I get a headache and I have inflammation and I'm added down for the count for 2 days. And I said, is that how you want to continue your life? You can choose to do that. I'm not telling you not to.
Right.
So do you want to continue to
no,
okay.
I don't.
So is there maybe a compromise we could do here where you still get to taste the chocolate? Because not everything with chocolate has that sugar that'll affect your A1C. Maybe you can find an alternative sugar and make hot chocolate and still have chocolate, right? But not have that sugar.
Right.
So see how if we open up the conversation where I say, I hear your need for chocolate. Oh my God, I love it. But what's the other side of it?
Right. And then you find that if you don't want these consequences, if you don't want this, there's an opportunity.
But I'm not going to tell you not to take those consequences. If you want to continue to deal with your A1C numbers and deal with all your problems, that is your choice. This is your body.
Right.
I absolutely recognize that. You have just come to me and asked for a solution. So I'm working this out with you. But if you don't want to work it out, I don't have to work it out. So you see how in this conversation here, never once am I telling you how it should be. I'm simply asking you, what do you want?
Really?
What is important to you? And by the way, I want to have this conversation because I really care about you. And I don't want you to die from a sugar overdose. You know, I really have that concern. Again, it's your body.
It's your choice. Right.
It's your choice. I love you though, and I can see how it affects you. But I can't make that choice for you. That is you and your body. And so this language allows me to have that separation and say, I can have my feelings. I can be like really scared for you and upset. But I also can have resignation and understand it's your body, your choice.
You get to do, right.
But I can be honest with you, but I don't have to force you to do anything.
And I think it takes us to this fundamental question that I oftentimes think we don't spend enough time in is, what do you want?
Bingo.
Like, Because at the end of the day, that's something that I'm passionate about. What do you want? Like, do you want a healthy life? Do you want a life full of joy? Do you want a life full of, peace and family? Or like, what do you want?
Do you ever ask people, do you deserve that life? Do you think you deserve that life? Do you ever ask people that question?
No.
Because I think that's the one that's stumbling over. That's the one I had to work with. But you see, nonviolent communication helps you think about that too. Think about, what are you wrestling with? So you have this want. Why aren't you getting it?
So then we talk about deserving. What does it mean to deserve something?
Or feel worthy of it.
And feel worthy that you can have. And I think that's where that limitation is. Like, if you asked anybody what they want in life, they're all going to say, I want these things, and these grandiose things, or whatever, what have you, or at least things that are outside of where they're at right now. But do you deserve that part?
Or are you willing to work for that?
Is that one and the same?
I think deserve is a very tricky word, because deserve, I think, assumes entitlement. I deserve this. I'm entitled to this. I feel that. But when you say, are you willing to work for this? Are you willing to reach for this? Are you willing to embrace this? Are you willing to take the time to make it happen? This podcast with you right here, I've been with you for a long journey here. It's been a few months and it's not been easy.
Yes.
You have wanted this and you have been able to do this. It's been heartache. It's been difficulty, and it's been expensive in time and money to do this.
Yes,
but you had this want, this dream, and you were willing to do what it takes to get there.
Got it.
And you felt you were worthy of getting here.
I understand that.
Thank you.
I understand that. I understand that.
And that's the hard work you have to do before you can effectively use nonviolent communication.
So there's a quote, you can never lead anyone further than you've led yourself. That kind of takes all that and sums that up. But when we're leading ourselves, we need to know where we're going, right? Because you can't lead in a directionless way, right? You have to be able to ask, what do I want and where am I going, right? And so can you embrace this identity, these changes? How do you get people to embrace something new about themselves that they want?
And that's the big question, isn't it? I think that your podcast and my podcast, mine's called Strength Beyond Struggle. And this is another thing, we're talking about that right now.
Right.
I believe there is strength beyond the struggle, but it is struggle to get clear about where you need to go. And we can't ignore that struggle. And I think my mother would blame Steve Jobs. Yes, she says that Steve Jobs created instant gratification, and she's very upset with this. Yes, I love my mother. She's very practical.
I love it. So I think that, one, let's talk about the podcast and the Strength Beyond Struggle. I had the privilege of being on the podcast, and I really think that it's the idea of masculinity and the conversations you're having are just powerful. And what we need to do is, again, echo these things. As an advocate and a champion and a partner in this mental health journey, what is the message that you want people to know as it pertains to your podcast? With the Strength Beyond Struggle, the solution, the hope, what are we pulling in from there?
I just hope through the stories and the information that I provide, it's set up to have a very strong anecdote. So we have people that talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a lot of bad and ugly about mental health.
Yes.
And the difficulties with mental health. And then I end it with research and data to show that what this story talked about is not a single situation. That what we talked about in that situation is repeated hundreds and thousands of times elsewhere. So you're not alone. That's the main thing I want people to know is you're not alone. You can do this.
And that's the thing I find is oftentimes the most relieving thing is that we're not alone. How do we build community? We talked about nonviolent communication, and the first community being the healing of a bone. How do we build community within ourselves? And sometimes we don't have a lot of friends, we don't have a lot of people, but how do we build community in a meaningful way? What does that look like?
Again, I think we go back to knowing who you are, what you're worth, because I interviewed a young man who is autistic and he's transgender and he's got bipolar and ADHD. He's a mess. He became homeless for a while, does not speak to his family any longer. And he struggled to find his community for a long time. Even within NAMI, he struggled because with his autism, he would do something called stimming. And stimming is autistic people, when they're in your presence, will be moving or repeating a procedure, doing this kind of thing, or moving. And it was really distracting during presentations. And so even that need he had for his autism was judged. Then he started going to be a fan of some entertainment that he liked. I don't know if it was a book, I don't know if it was a game, I'm not sure what it was, but it was a group of people that were similar to him, transgender. They struggled with asexualness. They didn't want to be in a relationship. They just wanted friends. And he found this group of people online, even though it's a small group of people and it's not typical, it's his, and it's his strength, it's his beachhead for the rest of the world. He can go back and retreat to these people, as I do with my husband. Right. My husband is my favorite human being. Oh, and whenever I go home from whatever, I go, I can't wait to tell you what happened. I'll call him 5 times a day when I'm in the office. This happened, that happened, every hour something happened. Yes. And so he is my human. He is my safe space. And so my friend Aaron has his safe space. And you find these people that they're on this inner circle, and NAMI has this idea of concentric circles, where you start with the foundation of that someone or people in your life that know you, all of you, and they love you no matter what. You can be having a crappy day and just say, I promise, I know I said I'd do this and I can't. And they're like, that's cool. I want you to get better. Then you go out from there. And people can start here and then they can go out there. But you have to be very clear, where do people fit on that circle? Because not everybody's trustworthy with who you really are. And you've got to be honest about, did that someone say something to me in this moment that I really needed their support and they just couldn't be there? Or is that someone that they can always call me and get help, but I can't call them and get help? You've got these different levels of, everybody doesn't have to be this close. You can have some people out here where it's like, we're good for lunch once a month and that's about it. Right. That boundaries, is okay. But you have to be honest about, where are these people on this concentric circle? And then you can start that safe space, because you need to have that base of safe space.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's worked out for my life. Yeah.
You know what? I agree. Safe spaces. And so, guys, we need a safe space. That's just plain and simple. That's one of our activities I think that we'll have to take away from here, is we have to have a safe space. The narrative that we don't talk is being challenged. I don't think that's true anymore. I think men have an opportunity to share their ideas and their perspectives in a way that is helpful. The idea of using nonviolent communication to do so, this tool, and so we can use to get our needs met.
Yes.
Both at the doctor's office, we can use nonviolent communication within our relationships, our friendships, what have you. This is a tool that we can use across all facets of our lives.
And it has revolutionized my life. I can't even say how much it's revolutionized my life. It's made it so much more effective, because I walk away from situations, number one, realizing, is this person close to my circle or not? Right. Can I negotiate with this person or not? There are some people that don't mesh with you, and you got to be okay with that.
And what happens in those moments? So how do you manage when people are like, they're good, you get like, how do you make that decision or distinction between, is it just appealing?
I keep trying. There's a person I work with in NAMI that I've tried to work with, and this person either has to be the leader or the follower. And I'm more of a collaborator. Correct. That's how I work. And so the way I work makes this person very anxious. They're not used to it. They're just not comfortable with that sort of way. So it took me a while to say, this person over and over responds in a hierarchical way when I respond in a collaborative way. And I just have to recognize that's how they communicate, good, bad, or ugly. It's how they work in the world. It's how they see the world. That's not working with me. So I just, I can leave early. I mean, I can arrive late and leave early if I want at a party. You can always be polite and say, I'll just say hello and then go on, or whatever you can. But you have to be honest with yourself too about that other person and just say, I really tried to make this work, and either we don't vibrate at the same frequency, we just have a different idea of how to communicate with each other, and that's okay. The world has all different ways. I'm being really calm about it right now, but I wasn't calm about it for all the weeks that I just talked about it with my husband and the heartache I went through, because I really would like everyone to like me. I'd really like to get along with everybody.
I think that's a natural thing everyone wants, right? I think theoretically.
But when you can just accept that, that's another thing. Another little bit of tools in your toolkit to bring peace to your life.
Yeah.
And that's all we can really do, right? Bring
I
peace
love
to our
that.
life.
And and that's the peace. That through communication, we bring peace to our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So as the role of mental health and the conversation on mental health changes, right? We think about the pharmaceutical industry. We think about therapy. We think all of these methods or modes of engaging and helping with mental health. We think about the first journey of self. For men out there who are struggling with mental health and don't know where to start, is it a call? Is it to a hotline? Is it reaching out to a friend? Is it where do we just start this journey of saying I want to get better? I know I can. I just don't know what to do.
I would. Well, I'm gonna strongly suggest you talk to a National Alliance on Mental Illness NAMI affiliate. I took classes there, and after I took what's called a family-to-family class to learn about my older daughter who lives with serious mental illness, I came home and my daughter said, "I have been waiting years for you to say that, Mom, to understand what's going on." So in the mental health world, it's very hard to know where to, like what you said. What NAMI does is they will teach you about how does the brain work. I mean, since the 1990s, we have improved on scanning techniques and understanding how the brain works. We weren't able to see it before then. So it's a very new science for us because of our technology. And number two, so this has changed the conversation because we realize it's nothing to be ashamed about if you're neurodivergent, which means you're more with a brain who's different. But to understand where to go, there's numerous therapies available. There's numerous medications available. How do these medications work in your brain? Exactly. And that's what NAMI teaches is, here's what your brain is about. Here is how it works. Let's define the different mental health conditions so you understand all of the basic panoply of what they are. What are the medications that are used for them? How do the medications work in your brain? How do they work with the neurons? And they tell you this. They have little videos and cartoons about things. And then they talk about all the various therapies available. And then they help you to create a crisis plan for yourself or your child or loved one, because there's always going to be a crisis.
Right.
And so it helps you to, number one, realize that living with mental health is peaks and valleys.
Yes.
Through your life.
It is. Yep.
And that is okay. It's okay to have peaks and valleys. They also have support groups where my children's father died in 2022, and it really disrupted our relationship. And NAMI helped me with support groups, how to find, I just had never come across a death like that before. Right. And it was very hard to relate. And they helped me. They helped me understand what I needed and what they needed. And so you can reach out to an organization like that, or you can find a friend like you, Jason, because clearly you know what you're doing. And your friends should be honored that they know you because you have directions to point people as well. But first finding out what is the mental health world, how does my brain work, what's available, and then from there you find your own path.
I love it. I love it. We find out where we're at, we assess where we're at, we find our tribe, we find our way to communicate, and then we start building our life from there.
It seems overwhelming.
Yeah.
I just heard you sigh right there. Being a hypersensitive person, I understand these things.
Right.
So it is one step at a time, but that's what makes life, it's like going on a journey. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. It's this is your ring of power, man, your mental health. And what are you going to do with this?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you can make it a journey. It's a journey of exploration. And as I discover more about me and how to communicate and I meet more people like you, it's like, this world is amazing. We
have an opportunity to grow when we learn from one another. And
Absolutely.
I think that being able to communicate is that first part, right? Like and I've been in spaces where I didn't know how to articulate my feelings, and I felt like I was just in another world and no one could hear or see me. And so being able to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is bothering me, but this is why, right? Being able to get to that space, freedom.
It has solved so many problems. I mean, like you're at the airport and everything's crazy, and you're just like, look, I'm really upset right now.
Right.
I'm not going to sound very nice. I'm going to go, okay, I'll give you a little break. Let's try to be nicer to you. And then everyone dials down because you're not escalating each other.
Right.
So when you first say, I might be not in a good situation here, it really helps just to own it. And
right.
so
I love that.
that would be one place to start with people. Just saying, just be honest about when you're getting upset and you're revving up. Just go, I'm not doing really well right now. I'm really upset. So either we can solve this problem now, or I need to leave and come back later because
Right.
I don't want to escalate it, but I'm really struggling right now. And to ask for that help and be vulnerable, it's okay.
Man, that's so hard to do sometimes.
For guys,
right? You know,
for
like
men.
we're getting there. But that's again why this podcast and these conversations are so important, because there will be a time when this narrative will be checked.
Well, you're one of those men though that's already on that path. Thank you for being an example.
I am. It is a constant walk, and I appreciate the opportunity and the affirmation. Thank you so much. This has been. I feel better. Like I
Wonderful.
feel like I could probably talk to anyone now and say anything I wanted. But I want to say thank you for your constant contribution and your commitment to always empowering and helping people. I'm a byproduct of your support, and I appreciate it always. And to all of our listeners out there, these tools will be available for you on our website. You can go to ifleftunchecked.com and see more. Go to our podcast, check out the resources there. We have a resource line and also a resource page, so that way you can find the help that you're looking for as well. Being able to communicate is important, and having the tools is essential. And since that's what humans do better than any other animal in the world, might want to perfect that, right?
Absolutely.
Indeed. This has been our guest, Michelle Nelson. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I'm your host, Jason Gillette. This has been If Left Unchecked. Follow us next week as we have another topic that'll challenge another narrative. Have a good one. Be kind to your mind. Bye.